hand up, Diana.
Hilary, Dennis of Rex's biographer. Ian, you used to live.
He only came out of the water to breathe.
John?
He was a very good friend of my father's, and a lot of my childhood was observing him and many other drinking poets and writers partying on much to my brothers and sisters in my life.
And Jim, you knew.
Lived in the same street.
We're cousins.
Oh, anybody else? Anyone else?
Yes, Rex was a friend of my dad, Bob Lowry. He used to be one of the star attractions at the parties
So
there.
your dad's Bob Lowry?
Yeah, my name is Judy Lowry.
Judy Lowry, oh wow, welcome.
So I heard through Dinah at the book club thing that this was happening.
Wow. The sort of cultural lineage here is just incredible. Like Bob Lowry was an incredible man.
That's why I met him at the Lowry party.
Oh yeah, and most people meet at parties, and the gatherings were really, as far as I know, with the Lowrys and the McIvers, they were really way out gatherings. It was a real part of the time, and people know one another. It was just incredible, and I think we're so happy to have this exhibition here, celebrating Rex Fairburn, who was so significant in Devonport, and to New Zealand poetry, and to New Zealand culture, that it's really kicking off the year for us as a year to celebrate our local, both our local and our New Zealand vernacular, and to celebrate which is our stories, our people, and this is a year of the vernacular for us, because more and more it seems more and more important that we need to hold on to it, celebrate it, document it, because that is who we are, and who we are as evolving New Zealanders. So we're really grateful to Dinah and her family for bringing this exhibition to us. We're grateful to the people here who have supported it, and we just think it's a really important thing to be doing, and we'll be doing a lot more of it in our little space close to where you can see Dave Burt standing, which will be the vernacular lounge. And we're celebrating that both visually, and we also have down the back, if you get the opportunity, we have 20 people who've read some of A.R.D. poetry, and it's on film, so you'll have an opportunity to hear how people respond to the different poems that they've chosen to read. So it's a really exciting exhibition for us, and I hope you really enjoy it and appreciate it and see the value of it as much as we do. And yeah, it's here for 3 weeks, so take your time to enjoy it. And this is Diana. Welcome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I've seen lots of people here that I know. The other night when there was a writers' meeting in the Devonport Library, it was a bit like a Takapuna Playset reunion. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Rex, and I want to discuss his employment and how he went about that. Leaving aside the poetry, which I'm sure you all know about, but Rex's first job was in the 1920s when he worked in an insurance company for 6 years. And the constraints of that job were too much for him. He left without having made any friends whatsoever. And then took off for London, for England, for a couple of years, where he had extremely interesting time. All of that. Excuse me. This is your book here. Okay, sorry. Thank you. I was going to say that all of this is detailed in good, fine writing and good detail in Dennis Trussell's biography. So here am I just skimming the surface, really. But anyway, so he went to England, had an adventurous couple of years, met and married my mother, and proceeded to have 4 children throughout the 1930s. When he came back, it was a depression, so he had to work for a road gang for a while, then got a job as the secretary to the Farmers Union. He also edited the Compost magazine. And then during the war, you'd really like to read about Rex as a soldier. Read Dennis's book. Anyway, but apart from sort of being drafted in some way, going down to Pascoe or military camp, he was manpowered, the government did, finding people who didn't have jobs that were useful from the war point of view. So he was manpowered as a scriptwriter for the New Zealand Broadcasting Service. Unfortunately, the public service regulations didn't allow for an employee who would come in at 11 o'clock in the morning. And when challenged as to why he was so late, he would say, well, he just didn't feel in the mood. He would also, on occasion, he would come in at 7 o'clock if he felt like it. His theory was that you can't just turn on the tap of GDS, you have to wait till it strikes you and then you can do something. But he'd come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and at 2 o'clock he'd go for a swim. So he was, yes. He was not an ideal employee, and it was not good for him either. He felt frustrated. So at the end of the war, he decided he'd like to earn a living doing something he really liked, and that turned out to be fabric printing. So here we join up with the exhibition. And so at first he designed fabrics with elements of nature, pine cones, pine needles, starfish, and so on. So he started doing that in 1946, 47. And then in 1947, somebody whom we knew but not very well, Theo Schoon, a Dutch-Indonesian artist and photographer, and also Javanese dancer, contacted him, wrote to him and said that Theo himself had been badly affected by being they tried to manpower him during the war, and it was so terrible for him that he took to the hills, he took to the South Island hills, to be more specific, where there were rock shelters, limestone shelters and caves, and there he found this amazing treasure trove of Māori prehistoric art, which, as you can see, Rex took on board. So he really appealed to Rex to try and use his influence to stop the damage that was occurring to these drawings, because farmers were mining quarrying the limestone, and the cattle was rubbing up against them and so on. So Rex did write to somebody one of the legal hogs, and he in turn approached Joseph Heenan, who was Minister of Internal Affairs, and he said, can't do anything, it's on private land. And so that was the end of that. So what happened was, Theo kind of opened the door on these cave drawings, rock drawings. Rex then made them accessible to people, because he then decided to use them for fabric printing. And he loved doing that. I don't know how much he was earning, little probably, and he was always worried about the fact that he had a wife and 4 children to support. But anyway, we got by. And he took up the rock drawings. He did, I think, about a couple of dozen designs, and then he used them initially on the squares of calico, which he sent across to the States to his friend John Mayall, now known as New Zealand's major war poet. And John saw to it that these panels were put in the UN gift shop, and here they sold really well. So that brought in a little bit of money, not probably enough to survive on, never mind. So in gratitude, Rex hand-blocked 12 full-length curtains on a different fabric. The fabric you can see here, quite a textured, heavy textured cotton, and sent them to John, where John hung them in his Connecticut home. He came back 10 years later, 1954, and hung them in his wonderful Murray house. And then John, I think my sister Janice would agree, that John liked to keep an eye on us, because Rex had died. He was perhaps one of the people who most felt he should step into the breach and keep an eye on us. And we were very close to him. He died in 2003. And he left his curtains to us. And they've been sitting, they were quite, some parts of them were quite damaged, they'd hung on the floor and soaked up moisture or something, and the material had become fairly fragile. But when I looked at them last year, I thought, well, actually, a good part of each curtain was quite sound and worth keeping. And I thought, well, it's worth keeping, but what do I do with it? So I decided that I would have them framed, conservation glass, and it's a good way to protect them, and a good way for people to see them and look at them. And so, hence we are now at this point. These panels, call them panels, it's a bit hard to provide a name for them otherwise, but that's what they are. And if you read the commentary around the walls, it's a continuous story about more or less what I've told you, but it gives you some information too about what Rex thought and felt when he saw these and when he was making the lino blocks and so on. So it's Rex speaking. We used to help him sometimes. We used to have this big table with a blade leaving the top on top, and he had a rubber mallet, and he used Morrison's printing ink, very fine New Zealand ink, and we used to put rollers in there, or sometimes we'd do that for him. We were sort of handmaking something. I think our brother also helped, because he was quite big and strong, had to be pretty strong to pump the image, the lino block, into the material. Anyway, that's the story of it. I hope you enjoy looking at them. I've got a pile of thank yous here. I'm going to give out my list because, in case I don't overlook anybody. But for a start, I've just been looking at the box here. There's a box in this corner and some little forms there. And if you'd like to put it out with your name and address and indicate your preference, put it in the box there, and you will go into a prize draw for. I realised I left something out. But anyway, I'll explain it this way. For 2 tickets to the pop-up globe performance of Henry V on March 22nd. So it's coming up on us. And the idea of that was, as well as looking at Rex, this exhibition is to look at other people who lived in Devonport and were creative in some way, and most of whom we knew very well. To see, provide their record. Otherwise, people forget them. So we came up with 11 names: writers, musicians, architects, artists, and so on. And we pulled those people out of the past, if you like, and provided information about them over on that wall there. Showed where they lived. We've got fond memories of them as well. So, in honour of one of them, Professor Sidney Musgrove, who was a very keen producer. He was head of English at Auckland University for about 30 years, 1946 for 30 years. And he in his honour, we decided we'd provide a prize to perhaps draw people's attention to the fact that Mus made a huge contribution to drama in Auckland. So 2 tickets to the pop-up globe, wonderful pop-up globe, seemed to be a really good idea. So thank you to Tobias Grant at the pop-up globe and the other people there, because pop-up globe is just wonderful. And so if you haven't been, put one in the box. Secondly, Barry Brickle was another person. He was only 15 when the Brickles, he turned 15 in the 1940s, and we knew them from about that point onwards. And somewhere up there, I think it is. Rex was Barry's first commercial client, and Barry made 6 big beer mugs for him, and one of them survived and is over there. And at the same time, he made 6 wine goblets for Anthony Alphas, who drank more delicately, apparently. all those goblets are gone, unfortunately. Now in bed, I did contact his son Philip. Nothing there. Anyway, so in honour of Barry Brickle, who's made such a huge contribution and died only a year ago, and did some amazing things in conservation and art.
I would drink water for those things.
There's a ticket for a family of 4 to Driving Creek Railway, and this is courtesy of the Driving Creek Arts and Conservation Trust. So big thank you to them while I've been on it. lots of times. And Jan, my sister Jan, has weeded the rail line. And of that, she got a mug. You can write it there too, isn't it? Yeah. Barry gave her a mug, DCR mug. So he asked her to finish the job and do the rest of it, but that would require a whole dinner session. Anyway, thank you to those two organisations for being a sponsor. And now, this required quite a bit of research, and part of that was looking for photographs. And so, big thank you to Keith Giles and other people, other members of George Gray Special Collections at Auckland Libraries. He helped me find photographs that were difficult to find anywhere else, and so that was a huge help. It's good to see these people, not just read about them. Also, the university special collections, the library special collections were very helpful too, especially, solely actually, but wonderful stuff about Sidney Musgrove and the plays he produced us over on that far wall. So thanks to them, and thanks to, otherwise photos came from members of the same families, the Brickles, for example, sent family photos of Barry, so that's extremely useful. And now, the at-home group, I was doing neither of those people, but my friend, where is he? Greg. Where's Greg? Anyway, Greg Smith.
He's outside,
Is he? Oh, okay. Well, perhaps his ears are burning because I'm talking about him. But anyway, Greg runs a website called Lost Property, a wonderful website about buildings that have gone or going, and again, it's like people, they get forgotten, and he's got wonderful information on that website. So Greg did two architects, Ivan Juris and Bruce Rotherham, and they're on the wall just round the corner there, and they were part of the group architects group who so changed our idea of how to build a New Zealand house. They were just a bunch of students when they got together, and they produced some wonderful houses, and Greg has put a list of the remaining houses on that wall. It's worth looking at some of them, really. My friend George Hayden gave me a tour once of group houses on the shore, and I thought it was fascinating. Then finally, not quite finally, we get to the team at the Depot. It's Lynn, of course, and Lyndon Linko, Robin Gibson and Lily Harris. They've been the team, and they've been fantastic, so supportive, and not making some really fun conversations along the way. So thank you to you too. That's been great. It's been great getting to know you. And I love the Depot. I just love this sort of arrangement. And Linda's spoken about the vernacular lounge. It's a great feature too. So finally, I'd like to thank my family. This is my husband over there. He generally, when I say I've got an idea, runs to the exit. But
I've never got there.
tackle him to the floor before he gets out. And also my sons and my sister Jan, or as always, very supportive of my ideas. Anyway, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Dennis going to Linda? Is Dennis bringing something? Russell? All right.
Dennis is here.
Here it comes. Yes, Russell.
Can you see
I had no direct contact with Rex Fairburn. I was 11 when he died, and I was living in Christchurch. But by a strange coincidence, the day he died, I heard of it because our neighbours mentioned it to their son, and I was a fellow ragamuffin of their sons. So that's when I first heard his name, and many years later my father suggested I write a biography of him, and I did. I'm going to read this because I tend to pedantry, and pedantry is easier on paper. So when Fairburn got...
Excuse me, but I've got somewhere else to go. I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
Excuse me.
Fairburn was in his early 40s when he first began cloth printing, and as you know, these are based on the initial work done by Theo Schoon, both photographs and drawings, which are a vital part of the story. The circumstances were right for cloth printing at the time for Fairburn himself. The family had just moved to a very big house in Devonport, and it's still there. It's corner of Mays Road and King Edward Parade. And he had left his much disliked wartime employment with public radio, and he was giving expression to a talent as a graphic artist that had long been part of his life, but which had not found a medium which suited him closely. Cloth printing in the immediate post-war years was economically important because, as Diane said, it helped support the family. The extent to which it made money is probably somewhat doubtful, but it was a heroic effort. It was a leap of faith into the world of the freelance artist and artisan, and it required significant input from the family at times, Jocelyn and the children, as Diana has indicated. And the interesting thing about it from a historical point of view is it put Fairburn directly in the line of artistic modernism, whatever that means, because it's a vast and contradictory term. The first hint that things like this were going through his mind, I found in a letter that he wrote in 1940 to the publisher, the retired publisher, Terry Bond, who lived at Maharani and who was frequently visited by Fairburns, often in large numbers. In 1940, Rex wrote to Bond of getting up and walking out of it all, and building myself a Paul clay-ish hut on bamboo stilts or bamboo sticks above the mangroves in front of your place, and sitting on a pile of straw in the corner most of the time in Orient reverie, descending fortnightly to wave sadly to you and collect my ration of small mud-dwelling marine insects. These words somehow anticipate qualities in the cloth printing, although they were in no way intended to do so. The allusion to the artist Paul Clay, to animate forms, to going it alone, were in anticipation of his break with regular life, and to an awareness of artistic modernism that would make some of the designs possible. The big Devonport house was far from the hut on stilts, but it was spacious and it overlooked the Waitemata and the black volcanic rocks on Devonport foreshore. The marine insects were not for eating, but their dramatic shapes had association with the marine forms and some of the terrestrial ones that would be carved into the printing blocks. And knowing both Clay and Miro, he knew also a visual field without perspective. If you look at all these panels, there's no suggestion of perspective in them. And as you know, perspective dominated Western art from the Renaissance right through the 20th century, and it's still, of course, a very important part of art, but it means a particular kind of interpretation of the natural world that perspectiveless art avoids in some way. There has been little attempt to look at the artistic roots of Fairburn cloth printing. They were, until now, largely treated as a craft venture to make money, something they certainly failed to do. What interests me is that I think in them Fairburn made his peace with modernism and found his fulfilment, albeit briefly, as a graphic artist. Many accusations have been made about his use, particularly of the rock art of the Maori, but few have commented on his positive and interesting achievement with such material. Back to clay. I think it highly probable that Fairburn had read Clay's Creative Credo, originally published in German in 1920. In it, Clay speaks of a graphic art with highly delineated forms and of how profound that could be. I'm quoting directly from Clay here. Graphic imagery, being confined to outlines, has a fairy-like quality, and at the same time can achieve great precision. Fairburn also saw affinities between Miro's art and the Maori rock art. The cloth print forms are not purely linear, but are strongly so, and they are placed in a ground without perspective, as I said. And we also see that kind of ground backing both Clay's imagery and Miro's. And that is something that was in the air at the time very much in Europe and to some degree in New Zealand. What gives these works their strength is their placement of the elements of the design on the ground. And nobody can tell you how to do that. Nobody. Any more than anybody can tell you how to recite a poem or how to play a work of music. That is innate, intuitive, and lucky if you can do it. And Fairburn could do it. It is not realistic. It does not suggest linear time or causality. Because there is no apparent relationship between the elements in these works, they appear to be terribly well related. And that's a paradox, but it works. It suggests elements in timeless space, as occurred in medieval art before perspective, and as it was rediscovered by modernism. This has also Aboriginal roots. It can be seen in the rock art both of Maori and Australian Aborigines. And it is a feature of primitive art in general, or so-called primitive art, which of course is very sophisticated. Fairburn had not seen the rock art at first hand when he started doing this. He did not travel to the South Island until 1947. His contact with it was through the medium of Schoon's photos and drawings. And I quote from him in an interview he did with Sarah Campion, also a Devonport resident. He said, "I copied them as exactly as possible and then used them in two ways, as ordinary fabric patterns and as the elements of arbitrary colour arrangements on rectangular panels. But in these arbitrary arrangements, he achieved often a resonance and meaning that had been in the originals on the rock. They speak to us of the antiquity, yet the freshness of human graphic imagination. They remain controversial. He also wrote on art and left one of the most best-known essays on the possible future of the fine arts in this country. It's called Some Aspects of New Zealand Art and Letters, published in 1934 in a journal called Art in New Zealand. If you haven't read it yet, I commend it to you because it is very much a prophetic piece of writing. And there's so much to say about Fairburn that I won't go any further, otherwise we'd never read it. So I'll close it there, and you can enjoy the show, because I think they're very important works, even though these ones originated from the humble curtain.
that biography was published in 1984.
Yeah.
84.
And it should be updated, and if I live long enough and stay sane, I'll do it.
Bravo.
It's a big job though, isn't it, Dennis?
Yeah.
It's a big job because part of the additional material are letters between Jeff and Rex.
When Jeff Fairburn died, who incidentally was a skilled graphic artist himself, the family discovered a trunk of letters in to Rex Fairburn that Jeff had kept in his wardrobe. There are, I think, Diane can correct me, I think there are 3,000 letters. And
1,500.
1,500, thank God.
The previous of letters that we were working on town, so nearly there, 2,500.
Oh, 2,500. Well, I've only got to read 2,500. Okay, well, that indicates the problem, and that's not the only new find of material concerning Fairburn. It's all over the place. There's an avalanche.
And there is some amazing writing, a lot of it by Dennis online, about Fairburn and his various interests in horticulture,
Yes.
agriculture.
Yes. Again, a prophetic piece of writing.
Yeah.
The Landau Life.
Yeah. And that's on that line, isn't it?
Yes, it's online.
Yeah. So,
And at the website of the Auckland Fabian Society. He gave talk to the Fabian Society in 1944 on what was essentially organic farming. And in 2014, the Fabian Society had me give a kind of anniversary lecture on the same subject, which was a commentary on Fairburn's 1944 essay. So that's all online at the website of the Fabian Society.
thanks, Dennis. So, yeah, thank you. And thank you for your writing, Dennis, over the years. Fantastic. And now, our final performance is from Ross Mullins. Ross Mullins has a CD on which he has performed 2 of Fairburn poems on set to music, but this one is his own composition that is going to perform in the footsteps of Fairburn.
We're Fairburn.
We're Fairburn. Thanks, Ross.
This song was not so much about Fairburn, but about Devonport. It was written when I was living overseas in my early 20s. And at that stage, I was married, still am married to a lady who was born in Devonport, and she always wanted to come back to this place. And I took a fancy to it, and I saw it as being a place where creative and artistic things could happen. And I was trying to imagine a song that Fairburn came to mind. I thought, gee, that guy did everything, and I love the poetry, so that's where I got to write the song about Devonport. I wrote it 30 years ago. The Devonport I'm talking about in the song partly doesn't exist anymore. There's the old corrugated wharf, there's the Masonic Tavern, various other things that have gone, but this is where Fairburn walked. Ferry me across the shining harbor, take me back again. Rock me gentle on the water, I will feel no pain. Walk me through that corrugated hallway, out onto the pier. castles with their filigrees and chestnut trees, and the idle talk of the old boilermakers in the public bar, sipping at their beer. Past the poets at the dartboard, waiting for their marvelous year. By the graveyard pioneers, there stood a priest. Lay down your penny, said, abandonment is only a sister of release. And when my journey's ended, I will ask you to bury me on the slopes of that gentle grassy mountain that looks out to the sea. Bury me in a black piano beside the mark of a tree, and toss my music to the wind and throw away the keys, and toss my music to the wind and throw away the keys.
Thank you, everyone. Now, just as we finish off, you might notice a few changes in here since you were here last year. New lighting is provided courtesy of Auckland Council. So it's been fantastic having some up-to-date lighting that's going to save us like 8% of our power bill. And secondly, you notice the new wall there that's now redeveloped the gallery to be more of a long and single, really good exhibition space with a bit of colour there. But lastly, and certainly not least, I'd like to introduce to you our new gallery manager, Amber Ramada there. So if perchance you're visiting, exhibiting, or whatever else, Amber will be one of your first ports of call. So thank you everyone for your support and continue to enjoy the afternoon.